Well, folks, once again, good evening, and thank you so very much for tuning into the Sanjubaba show. Really appreciate that, as usual. And thank you once again for your comments and concerns and your phone calls. And if you do not have my number, it's 226-6024, 226-6024. As usual, folks, I do have a very interesting personality this afternoon in the studios. And he has been a pretty good friend of mine for quite some time. A busy guy, always very much associated with the community and with you in person on a daily basis. And I'm sure you'll be eager to listen to what he has to say about his life and what he has come through and what his visions are in the future. With no other time over here that I would like to take on myself and speak about him, I would like to introduce the gentleman directly here, Mr. Matt Davenport.
Hello,
Matt,
Sanju.
thank you so very much for stopping by today.
Certainly welcome, certainly welcome.
Matt, as you guys know, he is from Channel 6 and he has been with the media for quite some time right now, and we'll talk about it, that how and why and what makes him a media guy. Matt, you've been with media for a little over, oh my gosh, since 87.
1987 was the first little time I had a taste of what media was like.
And see how sour that was.
Actually, it was awesome. There's different kinds of media. For this case, it happened to be with radio. I was at the University of Idaho, and a friend of mine was, in fact, he eventually became my roommate, had a job working the overnight shift at the college radio stations. And me growing up, I'd always loved music. I mean, I'm one of those type of people who love music. I'm not an accomplished musician, but I have music appreciation in me. And so I would go hang out with him.
I think any media guy has that.
I hope so, because music can take you to some interesting places. Yeah. And so he invited me to come over, and we talked a little bit, and I got to see the studio, and I said, "Oh, this is really nice," and 2 turntables and everything, and an old soundboard, of course. And so he said, "Why don't you come out? We're looking for some people to DJ." And so I applied there to the radio station.
And you in college then?
I'm in college, and this was my freshman year in college. And so I did, and I got hired on. And when I say hired on, it was for no money. Sure. It was, you get to work for us for free. It was in the sports department, in sports and news. And so what I got to do is I got to do the 5 o'clock news. So maybe 4 minutes out of that 5 o'clock hour.
Is that the movie tracks?
No, this movie tracks came a little bit later in commercial, but this was just reading the news, going on what's happening in the university, and then they needed some help over the holidays doing play-by-play and color commentary for the Women Vandals basketball team. And it was during the holidays, and all their guys had gone home, and I was sticking around for the holidays.
Tell us where that was again, in Washington? Here?
University of Idaho in Moscow.
Moscow, okay.
And so I got to do that, and I had a blast. I worked with a guy by the name of Roger McAfee, and he was a lot of fun. So we got to do some women's basketball games, and so that was my first experience, my first taste with radio. I didn't get to play the music like he was doing, but I did get to be on the radio, and I thought that was awesome. After my freshman year, I went back, grew up in Nampa, went back to Nampa and got a job doing various things. And one of my jobs was at the pizza restaurant. And so I'd be the guy who'd take the pizza out of the oven, get, "Bob, your pizza's ready, Bob." And then Bob would come up and get his pizza. And I did that one night, and there was a gentleman by the name of Lee Schaefer. And I didn't know this because I wasn't out there in the restaurant in the dining portion, but every Friday night he brought his family in to come get pizza. And so over the course of a few weeks, I guess he'd been listening to my name calling out there, and he came up to get up his pizza one time and said, you kind of have a nice voice. I own a couple of radio stations in Boise. Would you like to come work for me? And it was like, I love pizza, but this is kind of an interesting opportunity. And so I did. I went to work for him, started working overnights, started working weekends, the part-time, the fill-ins, and that eventually evolved to program director of the AM/FM station over a couple of years that I worked for him. And that really began my commercial
What was the main
broadcast.
focus on that program?
There was two. The FM was an easy listening music. Okay. It was the elevator music. It was the current tunes but no words. It was background music. It was the kind, if you walked into a doctor's office or a dentist's office, that was the type of music you were hearing in the background. And we worked off of these large reel-to-reel machines. And we would load up the reel-to-reels, and they would fire off at different times, and then we'd come on and we'd give the hourly weather. But that was my first experience with radio. And then the AM side was religious broadcasting, and so they would play religious programming throughout the day. So that was my first commercial, we can say, for-profit radio station that I worked for. And then that
does that still exist, the radio station?
It still exists.
Good.
And it's still the FM station has changed. They are now religious talk programming in Boise, but they still exist. Lee Schaefer, though, passed away a couple years ago, and that was kind of sad, but his family is just an awesome family, and he was awesome to work for. And so that led to another station, and then to another station, and then I found myself at one point out of work. And my wife, I had just gotten married, and my wife suggested, well, maybe we should go back up to University of Idaho and continue working towards your degree. Now, when I went up the first time after my freshman year, my major was aerospace engineering.
Oh boy. Okay.
I was a math head, and I wanted to fly, say math head, rather than meth head, math head.
Math head.
And I wanted to fly planes. I wanted to fly jets. My dad was in the Air Force, and he really, really inspired me, and that's what I wanted to do. But thanks to these glasses, there was no career. You have to be a perfect physical specimen if you want to fly jets. And they said, we'll let you fix jets. And it's like, I don't want to fix jets. And so I had to take the course catalog at University of Idaho, and just, I really did this. I closed my eyes and I put my finger down in the catalog, and it landed on mass communications. And so I said, okay, I worked at a radio station in Boise. I could do this communications thing.
And it was just for you,
just for me, yeah. And so that's when I started really getting into media. Sure. I got hired on at a radio station in Pullman, Washington. So that kind of got me through college. That kind of paid the bills. And then we had the birth of our first child, our son, Garrett. And so it's like, well, we need to start working full time. We've got a family now. So we moved back down to Boise. Got hired on at a radio station in Boise, and then a friend of mine who worked there actually worked at a station in Blackfoot in his career history, and he said, they're looking for a program director. Why don't you apply? Because I'd been working overnights, and I said, a job where I get to work during the day. That's awesome.
That was in Blackfoot?
And so that was what turned out to be Classy 97 and now K-Bear 101. And so I got to work there, and that's when we came over to Blackfoot in East Idaho, and that was 1997.
Same year that I came to Idaho.
Really?
Yes.
All right. Yeah. So
there was a lot of jumps. It was a lot of jumps. You went to, and you worked on that in various sectors, various fields. It seems like media was your
everywhere I looked at, fate, yeah, it was my destiny.
Your destiny.
It's not something that I actively sought out. Like I said, I went to aerospace engineering, so I was taking lots of math and engineering courses, and of course my freshman year in college, it's just groundwork, it's just your basics and stuff. But in high school, that's really where I focused.
So where were you born? You were born in Mexico?
I was actually born in New York.
In New York?
I was born in a little tiny burg called Utica. And my dad, like I said, was in the Air Force, and so we moved around a lot. He was stationed at the Air Force base next door to Utica in Rome, New York, and then we moved to Virginia and El Paso, and eventually when he retired, his dad lived in Napa, and that's where he retired, and that's where I grew up in the western side of the state. And then coming out here and starting to work at the radio stations there, and I transitioned. The average lifespan of a radio DJ is 18 months. You're at a station for 18 months, and then you're on to your next adventure. I'd worked at the stations in Blackfoot for about 3 years, and then had an opportunity to come work for the stations in Pocatello, and I did, and that's when I really started to get into community service. That's where I started meeting people and getting plugged in. Some friends of mine were involved with the Chamber of Commerce, and the one nice thing about the Chamber of Commerce is if you know somebody in the Chamber of Commerce, you're soon going to be working for the Chamber of Commerce in some aspect. And that's great because it's all about the networking. And so a friend of mine was working as the general general manager of the chamber, and I got involved and got on the board of directors of the chamber, and just, I mean, it was a great opportunity to meet the people in town. And you know, I grew up in Nampa, that's my home, but since we moved here, this is really where the roots have grown. The connections have been made, the people that you meet, the circumstances that you get through. And so it was with that time with the chamber that I got to meet lots of fabulous, fabulous people. It's been lots and lots of fun. And so that was great and everything, and so we're working there in radio, and then one day in January 2003, I got called into the office, and we have to let you go. And you talk about a blow, you talk about something you're not expecting, and talk about, you know, when you say your destiny, and I had no understanding why that happened. And so it was a couple of weeks of complete misery, as expected. Sure. And I saw a want ad in the classified ad for Channel 6. And they were looking for some part-time people to work behind. You'll have to excuse me, I have an appointment that I know I silenced my phone for, but it overseeded that. Okay. And so it had a classified ad, and so I answered the classified ad. And it was just seeking a part-time camera person for the TV station. And so I'm in need of a job, I applied for it, and Brenda Baumgartner was the news director of the TV station, and she's the one who hired me, and she, I say, of my time in television, she has had the greatest influence on my time there, you know, valuable life lessons that she's imparted to me. Sure. And the incredible opportunities that she gave me while I was there. For a year, about a year and a half, I'd been working behind the camera, and I'm perfectly content. Believe it or not, I'm not an in front of the camera person. I'm naturally an introvert, and you would think, well, you're on television, you got to be, you know, type A personality, and you have to be on, you know, you must love being on the camera. It's like I never really sought out being in front of the camera. I was perfectly fine with the technology of the TV station, being behind the camera. And so I'd been working behind the camera for a couple of the shows, the morning show, and we had a noon show at that time. Sure. And I've been trying a couple different things, and I'm walking through the studio on a Friday, and Brenda is getting ready for the noon show, and she says to me, "Matt, I think you're going to anchor on Monday." And I thought it was a joke. I laughed it off. I said, "Oh, ha ha ha." She goes, "No, really. I think you're gonna anchor on Monday." And so that was probably the longest weekend of my life. That Monday rolled around, and I think I might have the tape somewhere of my first time on camera.
I would love to see that.
I would, but what you can't see below the camera is my hands are shaking like this, and my voice was, I was so nervous. And that was late 2004. And since then, it's just been an exciting time at Channel 6.
You know, Matt, needless to say, really, it's really a privilege to have you in Pocatello. I think you have put in a real dent in Pocatello. The Pocatello
a dent in a good way, hopefully.
Yes, absolutely. Pocatello people knows you well. You have shown yourself in the community very well. You have been involved a lot, I think. I've seen you in a lot of areas where I go. I've seen you there. And I think it's really a blessing. You have done a fantastic job on that.
You say the correct word. You say the word blessing. To be able to be on television it's a blessing, and it's a huge responsibility. There are things about broadcasting, and I had studied broadcasting in college, and journalism in college, but there are life lessons that I've learned working that I don't think many colleges teach. There's no class on giving back. There's no class on being involved. That's something that really comes by being, like you said, recognizing how blessed you are and being able to help out where you can. And that's something that I really enjoy doing. I mean, when I'm sitting in front of a camera and presenting the news, it's one thing, but it's a very lonely experience. It's you, a couple other people. Like I said, I'm an introvert, and so one of my challenges is being able to be out in the community. It's such That's
It was a challenge for you.
It's challenging for me, but it's very rewarding because I get to interact with people, and I love interacting with people, and I like being able to help out. If there's a nonprofit organization, if there's an event that's coming up, I really feel it a privilege to be involved with that. And I've done lots of different events, and it's always fun because it's the same way with working with the chamber. You meet interesting people, and so it's like I said, it's a blessing and a privilege to be able to do that.
You've been with Channel 6 for 10 years now. It has been a decade now, and
almost 11
years. What is the most experiencing or most exciting or most memorable so far in 10 years of your journey in Channel 6?
The most memorable part of Channel 6 is stuff that happens behind the camera. It's interacting with people, stuff that happens off camera. Like I said, being out in the community is probably the most memorable part for me. But I think the most memorable part of being in media in general has to be September 11th, 2001. I was working at the radio station here in Pocatello, and just everything that happened that day is something that I will never forget. We had a TV on in one of the broadcast booths, and it was really something that really, I mean, when you're talking radio, you're talking ha-ha, it's funny, and people ask me, you spend a lot of time in radio, you spend a lot of time in television, which do you like better? And I tell them, radio is playtime. We have a lot of fun on the radio stations, and I had fun people that I worked with. Television is work, but it was at that point that I think I really transitioned from being a radio DJ to being, I think that's really, I really look back, and that's where the turning point came, to be a journalist, to be a storyteller, to people and their lives matter. And here's over 3,000 people whose lives will probably never be told in this one tragic event, and it really changed my perspective on things. I think it really made me grow up a lot, just that one event. But in television, there's been so many rewarding things, from being able to help in the community and some of the, I think the Brooklands playground that we were involved in, we did a lot of fun things to help raise money for that, and to be able to see these kids go out, and when you drive past OK Ward Park and you see kids playing on that, on the all capable playground equipment, and you think, you know what, that's a real positive thing for the community. Lots of people coming together, singular purpose, working on something that it's going to benefit people 100 years from now. And they may not know the story behind it when they go out, when mom and dad take their kids out to go play on the swings. They may not know the story behind it, but hopefully they'll remember and be able to tell their kids about it. Hey, how special this is, that a community came together with singular focus to be able to do this. And so probably my favorite memory of television is helping out. And when that grand opening happened and all those kids go running out and you hear them laughing and giggling and just having fun and being able to be a kid. A lot of times, nowadays we have lots of serious issues that go on in our lives. To be able to have that childlike, laughter and giggle and have fun, it's really special.
I think I see that especially in this country, when I come from a different country altogether, that how a child's life has been taken away from a child's life.
Right. They're not allowed to be a child.
They were taught so much more stuff which is not required to be taught at that age.
Right.
I have two little girls of mine, and one is an 8-year-old, one is 14 years old. And the 8-year-old, when I hear the things they get taught sometimes, I feel, does it really required? Yeah. Is it really required right now to teach that? In India,
they'll have enough time the rest of their lives to...
The school thinks that yes, we should, because where the country is going.
In competition and...
Sure. All the way from New York to Virginia to Moscow to Boise to Blackfoot to Pocatello, 11 years in Channel 6. Where does Matt see himself 5 years from now?
I can put out a roadmap for my life. I can say, when I turn 45, I want to accomplish this. When I turn 50, I want to accomplish this. And when I was in college, that's kind of how I looked. I said, I want to do this and this and this. And when I first entered college, I said, okay, I'm on the plan to fly jets. Life has a way of throwing you the curveballs, throwing the boomerang that doesn't come back.
Sure.
It has a way of doing that. And so I've kind of adopted the philosophy of, take every moment, enjoy every moment. you can have your life planned out. And I'm not saying don't plan, but you can have your life planned out, and it's going to be a phone call that comes at 3 o'clock in the morning that's going to change your life.
What kind of a phone call is Matt waiting for?
I'm not waiting for a phone call. In fact, they might get my voicemail message. But so it's nice to play. You know, I really don't have
expecting
anything.
That somebody would. I wish I could be there. Can I be there?
I am just so content with my life right now that I have no. I say some people say I want to go to a bigger market, or I want to go to New York. I want to anchor the Today Show, and I want to do this, and I want to do that. Then there comes a point like, well, you know, 1% of 1% of 1% of people are going to be able to do that. You have to find content.
Why? Is it because of the challenges?
Well, it's just job availability. There are only. You think about this, there may be 1 or 2 TV stations, maybe 3 or 4 conglomerate stations in every market. And then there's only 1 or 2 anchor jobs at each station. And so your job opportunities are very, very slim. And I don't want to come down on anybody who doesn't have dreams, because
Thank you. I don't want you to.
Yeah.
I don't want them to think that my viewers to think that, oh my gosh, if I have the vision, I cannot go, because
if you have a dream, pursue it, go after it. But just be prepared that you might get it, and that'd be great.
Sure.
But then again, life may have something in store for you that's completely different that you don't realize. If you would have told me when I was in college that I'd be anchoring NBC affiliate TV station, like I told Brenda, I didn't believe her when she said, you're anchoring on Monday. I had no idea. And so life, you have to be able to accept what life throws at you and be content. And be content in how it turns out.
What inspires Matt on a daily basis?
Oh, inspiration. Like I talked a little bit earlier about how I loved music. Music, I think, really inspires me. I love all kinds of music, and I took a course in college which was music appreciation class, and I took it because it sounded like it was a very easy class, and hey, I played piano a little bit, I can appreciate music. And then you get into the nuts and bolts of music, starting from Gregorian chants, world music, all the way up to modern day music, and that's something that has kind of inspired me, is just music. And whenever I get to a place where I'm feeling a little bit down or feeling a little bit stressed out, music is able to kind of get me through that.
So today, if you're given a chance, sorry, go ahead.
No, and then another thing that inspires me are my children.
Sure.
I love those little guys to death. I have a daughter and a son, and they don't know how much they inspire me, but just seeing them grow up is something pretty magnificent.
A real change on them every day, every week, every month.
Yeah.
What I lost track of the thought that I was about to ask you. The music, yes, music. You're so much into music. You're so much into listening.
Yes.
If you get a chance in the future to move into radio, would Matt move back to the radio stations again?
That's a good question. I don't know if I would go back to radio. As much as I loved being in radio, radio has changed, and I had the opportunity to pursue some of my personal interests in radio. And if I were ever to get into a place of radio, or I would say audio, the internet is such a fantastic place to do it right now, because you're able, without restrictions, to pursue what your interests are. I mean, if you want to have a show about how to create bonsai plants, you can go to YouTube, you can have a podcast, you can do that, and whatever your focus is, there's a term, broadcasting, and everybody's heard of the term broadcasting, and that's what it is. You are broadcasting to a large amount of people. I could see myself more narrowcasting. I have my interests. I love movies, I love music. And if I were to have something, it would be specifically for movie music, combining the two. And that's probably what I would get into if I were to get back into an audio type of format. Radio stations right now, in fact, television, radio, all media is changing thanks to the internet. And so you're able to reach a large amount of people with a narrow focus.
Are you working on that a little bit right now, step by step?
I'm looking at a couple of things right now to have some fun, because I always like to be creative. and I need to have that creative outlet. And hosting something like a movie music show gives me that creative outlet. Sitting around talking to my friends who are all parts of the globe now, just talking about movies and things that are going on is something that I enjoy doing. It's that creative outlet. It's that relaxing. Some people have boats. Some people have fishing, some people have hunting, things that people do to relax. That's kind of my thing, just kind of listening to music and chatting about it.
So is Matt thinking of making Pocatello his last stop?
I think so. I think there's most likely one more stop. I don't know where it is, I don't know what it is, but I would be happy if this were the last stop. Our plan was originally, I told you that the average lifespan of a DJ is 18 months. When we moved here to work at a radio station, and when I say we, my wife and I had 2 kids at the time, a brand new baby girl who was 2 months old, to come to Pocatello, Idaho Falls, Blackfoot area, and say, okay, we'll be here 18 months to 2 years, and then it's going to be the next step for us.
Sure.
We'll be somewhere else. That was 1997. Like I said, plans change, and you don't know where you're going to be and where you're going to end up, but you have to find contentment in where you are, and we've found more than enough contentment.
Excellent. As I said, Pocatello is glad to have you.
Oh, thanks.
Matt, there's a lot of students right now, and they're also looking into becoming a journalist in the future.
Right.
And they don't know the real life of a journalist. I would count Matt Davenport as one of a seasoned journalist.
It's the gray hair, isn't it?
Radio and TV.
Got a lot of gray hair over the last 10 years.
Since 1987, almost 3 decades. What would you like to talk to them? What would you like to tell them? How would you inspire them? And do you think there is money in journalism? And do you think it's only name or fame? What is it that strikes somebody to be a journalist tomorrow?
Okay, it's not the money. You can make a lot more money doing other things, and I'm not bagging on people who do make a lot of money. You have to have a passion. You have to have a passion for storytelling, telling other people's story. You have to be able to give voice to the voiceless, being able to tell people's stories who can't get on the news every day at 5, 6, and 10 o'clock and tell stories. And you have to be able to tell their story. So you have to have a passion. You have to be interested in people. And so I would say if you are wanting to be a journalist, ask questions. You get taught in journalism school and at classes, get the who, what, where, when, why. Of those, the how and the whys are the questions that are going to give you the most knowledge. Always ask the how and the why. Why did this happen? How did this happen? And when you ask those of other people, they begin to tell their story. And so you are able to tell stories of other people. One of the problems is time constraints, is that you have to tell a story and you have to connect that story with your audience in a short amount of time. And that's where the crafting comes in. So
passion is one most major thing I think one should have, and they should love this stream. Because as you know, and I've spoken to a lot of other journalists also, financially it's a little tough line.
It is tough.
But if somebody wants to explore and if they want to do better tomorrow, they can. The struggle is there. As you have also mentioned, you could go to New York, you could go to a bigger city, not only New York, anywhere else in the world, and struggle and try and get there, and there might be a possible chance for them.
Exactly,
right?
Exactly.
But the passion has to be there.
You have to have the passion.
Absolutely. What does Matt do in his off time?
Oh, in my off time.
20 seconds.
Okay, 20 seconds. Here I am, I'm 45 years old, and I play video games. It's a bit of a stress reliever, but it's part of the technology side of me. I'm a very technology-oriented person, and so that's kind of my off time.
All right. Well, folks, that was Matt Davenport for you from Channel 6. I hope you have enjoyed listening to him. What an interesting life, all the way from New York to Idaho to Pocatello right now over here with you, and he's sharing his life with you, and he expects to be here for the rest of his life and enjoy with you guys. Folks, thank you so very much for tuning into the Sanjubaba Show. We'll catch you back same time, same day, next week. Tune in back. Thank you.